Sign this, Dad. You won't live long anyway. That statement echoed like a cold knife cutting straight into my heart. Before me, Anna, the daughter I once cherished like a treasure, was placing a thick stack of papers on the table. Her eyes were no longer bright and innocent like when she was young, but instead held a chilling, arrogant, and greedy gaze that was terrifying to behold. I held the pen trembling, not because of old age, but because my heart was shaken. The only person I trusted, the one I sacrificed my whole life for, is now telling me that my death is only a matter of days. I want to scream. I want to ask it why it turned out like this. But his throat was choked. The room was completely silent. Only the ticking of the grandfather clock could be heard, as if it were counting down every second of my life. At that time, I had no idea that behind this piece of will paper was a plan that had been set up for a very long time, a series of cold and cruel conspiracies. It doesn't just want money. It wants me to fall to my knees, to erase me from this life as if I never existed. Don't take your eyes off it, because what I'm about to tell you right now is 100 times more shocking than that statement. My name is Robert Miller, and I am 62 years old. I've been a civil engineer my whole life, a tough job, rain or shine, but I've always been proud that these calloused hands have built so many sturdy roofs. I still think of myself as a lucky man, a kind wife, a good daughter, and a house filled with laughter. But life rarely gives anyone everything. My wife passed away early when Anna was only 8 years old. From that moment on, I became both father and mother, pouring all my love into my child. I vividly remember those winter mornings when, having just finished a long shift at the construction site, I would rush home just to make Anna a hot bowl of porridge. The little girl sat at the table, wearing the sweater I knitted with my clumsy hands, her eyes crinkled in a smile. "Daddy, one day I'll build a house just for you." I chuckled, stroking its soft hair. That naive promise, I've held it close to my heart for several decades. Anna is a good student and always at the top of the class. The day she was accepted to Columbia University, I shed tears. I had to sell my old truck, my career-long friend, to have enough money to pay for its tuition. But I told myself, it's worth it. Your future must be brighter than mine. However, that sacrifice gradually turned me into a shadow in Anna's life. In the years it was in New York, it rarely called, only sending a few hurried lines. "I'm very busy, Daddy. I'll come visit when I have free time." I'm still patient, still believe that when his career stabilizes, he'll come back to me, hold me like he did when we were young. But when Anna returned, I realized it was different, very different. Eyes that were once clear are now covered in a cold mist. Instead of talking about family, it only talked about money, about projects, about investments I didn't understand at all. I console myself that my daughter is grown up and has her own way of thinking. I had no idea that it was during those years away from home that a part of Anna died, and in its place a cold, calculating version of her emerged. That night I lay awake, remembering the image of my little child running around the construction site, holding the lunchbox I had prepared, and chattering excitedly to everyone. "This is my daddy. He builds houses for people. My heart aches. I want to believe that the Anna of old is still out there, just hidden by the dust of life." But I was wrong. It's too late. There's an autumn afternoon I'll never forget. At that time, Anna had just turned 13. It's drizzling and the schoolyard is covered in yellow leaves. I stood under the old oak tree, holding my worn-out umbrella, waiting for my daughter to get out of school. The classmates rushed out, laughing and chattering, but Anna ran straight toward me and gave me a big hug. "Daddy, I won first prize in math. I am incredibly proud." In its eyes at that moment, I saw both faith in its father and a bright future dream. Those memories now, every time I recall them, they only cause me a sharp pain. I don't know what moment turned my daughter into someone else. Perhaps when it's exposed to the whirlpools of money, the whispers of power and fame. Or maybe it's my fault. Because I was too busy making money, I didn't realize Anna's soul was changing bit by bit. The day he came home after years away, he no longer carried the books or drawings of his childhood, but a designer leather bag. He walked into the house, looked around, and then dropped a cold remark. "This place looks old, Dad. You should sell it and move somewhere better." I was startled. This house is where my wife took her last breath, where I raised Anna. For me, this isn't just a house, it's a lifetime of memories. But to him, it's all just a piece of property that can be valued and bought or sold. Once, I tried to bring back a little bit of family warmth. I started the conversation. "Do you remember when you said you'd build Daddy a house when you were little?" Anna laughed, but the laughter was no longer clear. That was just kids' talk, Dad. Now it's all about business. That answer was like a slap in the face. I looked deep into my child's eyes, trying to find the innocent light of years ago, but all I saw was coldness, calculation, and bottomless ambition. I often wonder, if her mother were still alive, would things be different? Perhaps my wife will know how to keep Anna's heart from turning to stone. But now, I'm all alone, watching my only daughter slip away from her father's embrace, falling into the vortex of money and lies. And then, that fateful moment arrived, when she placed the will in front of me, casually saying, "Sign this, Dad. You won't live long anyway." All those beautiful memories suddenly shattered. I understand that the daughter I once loved the most has now become the villain in my own life. Since the day Anna brought the will, everything in my little house has completely changed. No longer peaceful evening meals, but icy, suspicious dialogues. Anna is no longer hiding her ambition. It got straight to the point with a commanding voice. "Dad, the land near the lake will be wasted if we keep it. Sell it. I know investors who would pay millions." I was stunned. The land by the lake is not just real estate. It's the land my parents left behind, the place I used to take Anna fishing, where she first learned to ride her bike and fell flat on her face, bursting into tears in my arms. For me, it's a memory. To him, it's just a number on a spreadsheet. I refused, gently but firmly. "No, Anna. It's the family's land. Dad wants to keep it." His face darkened, his lips curled in annoyance. "You're too sentimental. Money doesn't wait for anyone, Dad." I knew that from that moment on, the conflict between father and son was no longer simply a difference of opinion. It turned into a war between memory and ambition. A few days later, I discovered that strangers were appearing around the land by the lake. They took photos, measured, and spoke in the language of brokers. I asked, and they immediately said, "Anna hired us to survey and prepare the sales documents." My heart is pounding. Without my consent, it secretly tried to sell the land. That night, I questioned, "Do you know what you're doing, Anna?" It didn't deny it at all. It even looked me straight in the eye. "I'm doing what you should have done a long time ago. Stop being stubborn." I stood still. In the echoing room, the wind whistled through the windows, and I felt a deep, invisible chasm separating father and son. Anna is no longer the little girl she once was, but a woman willing to trample on the past just to achieve her goals. That night, I couldn't sleep. In the darkness, I heard the ticking of the clock, reminding me that I didn't have much time left. But I also told myself, if I fall, there will be no one left to keep what belongs to this family. After the incident with the lakeside plot, I started to be more cautious. I carefully checked the documents, locked the filing cabinet, and even hid some important papers in a place only I knew. But I didn't expect Anna to go further than I thought. And one morning when the postman delivered an envelope from the bank, I was shocked to discover there was a huge loan in the name of Robert Miller, which is me. The amount reaches up to 0,000. I've never borrowed, I've never signed any documents. I trembled as I turned each page of the file and saw the signature. It was exactly like my signature. I was speechless. The only person who could forge my signature so intricately is Anna. After many years of living together, it had become too familiar with every stroke of its father's brush. That afternoon, I sat waiting for it to come back. When Anna opened the door, I placed the stack of papers in front of her. "What is this, Anna?" It glanced over, then nonchalantly as if nothing had happened. "Just a small loan for investment. Don't worry, Dad, I'll pay it back." I exploded. "Do you understand what you just did? This is a scam. This is a crime." Anna shrugged as if I were making too much of a fuss. "Dad, you won't even use the money. At least I can make it grow. Think about it." I looked at my daughter as if I were looking at a stranger. I want to believe it was just a whim, but his cold eyes show the opposite. This was a calculated plan, not a moment of impulsiveness. That night, I called the bank and reported the suspected forgery. The manager told me that the loan application had been verified because Mr. Robert Miller had come in person to sign it. I was stunned. I've never set foot in that bank. So who replaced me? And then a bank employee whispered, "The daughter with him looks very much like him." That saying struck me like a bolt from the blue. I understand. Anna borrowed my name, used trickery to deceive the staff, and made the fake signature look real. That night, I rummaged through old papers, Anna's birth certificate, the red book for the land by the lake, and even the will my wife wrote before she passed away. I suddenly shuddered. If it could forge a loan signature, then forcing me to sign a fake will was just the next step in the plan. In the darkness, I heard Anna's laughter echoing from the next room, mixed with the sound of phone conversations. Don't worry. Soon, everything will be under my name. I'm trembling. Its plan doesn't stop at the loan money, but includes this entire estate, and to achieve that, it's willing to trample on the honor and even the life of its own father. After the shock of discovering Anna forged the signature, I thought things had reached their limit. But no, that was just the beginning. My daughter has gone further, more dangerously. At that time, my health deteriorated rapidly. I often feel dizzy, my heart races, and sometimes I don't have enough strength to get up after each bout of fatigue. Initially, I thought it was just old age and pressure, but then, one evening, I accidentally found a bottle of medicine in the kitchen cabinet. The label was faded, but it was clearly not prescribed by a doctor. I picked it up and saw that many familiar pills had been replaced with different ones, with the exact same outer shell but a lighter color. My heart skipped a beat. A terrible thought flashed through my mind. Someone had tampered with my medication. The only person who can enter the kitchen, pharmacy, etc., is Anna. I pretended to ask, Anna, did you get the medicine for your father? It turned back, giving a half smile. Of course, Dad. I'm just trying to help. You take too many pills. The way he spoke sent a chill down my spine. Help. But the kind of help that makes me increasingly depleted, dependent, and prone to collapse. A few days later, a close neighbor, Mrs. Margaret, whispered to me, Robert, I saw Miss Anna put something in your teacup the other day. I think you should be careful. The warning was like adding fuel to the fire of suspicion. I decided to give it a try. That evening, when Anna brought me a cup of hot tea, I quietly set it down on the table without drinking it. A few minutes later, she looked at the untouched teacup, her eyes flashing with annoyance. Why didn't you drink it, Dad? It asked, its voice harsh. I replied, I'm not thirsty. In that moment, we looked straight at each other. I saw a dark light clearly in its eyes, as if it knew I had begun to suspect. My body is getting weaker, but my mind is getting sharper. I started taking notes. Which days I took the medicine, when I felt tired, and who gave it to me. I want evidence. Then one day, I left the small camera in the living room. The image I captured left me speechless. Anna quietly opened the medicine box, switched bottles, and then carefully erased the evidence. On its face at that moment, there was no trace of mercy left, only the coldness of a calculating person. I understand. It wants me to break down quickly, to sign the papers it needs, or worse, to no longer have the strength to resist. In my heart, pain is mixed with resentment. I used to think all my sacrifices were for Anna, so she could have a full and happy life. But now, that very sacrifice has become a double-edged sword, stabbing me in the heart. After getting the video from the camera, I knew things had reached their most dangerous point, but I didn't expect Anna to accelerate to the point where I felt breathless. One evening, he sat in front of me, placing a thick file on the table. His voice was even, but every word was like a knife. Dad, you're sick, you're weak. Sign this will so things don't get messy later. My hands were shaking as I held the stack of papers. My eyes were blurring, but I was still clear-headed enough to read. Each cold line of text, all assets, including the house, lakeside land, and all savings, will be transferred to Anna Miller's name immediately upon Robert Miller's death. I looked up at my daughter. He sat up straight, his eyes devoid of any warmth. I whispered, my voice sounding lost. Anna, why did you do that to your father? He shrugged, completely unfazed. Because it's better this way. You won't live long, Dad. Don't make it harder. My heart is broken. I remember the image of the little girl who used to sit behind me on the old bicycle, laughing heartily and holding her father's waist tightly. Now it's the same girl, but she looks at me like an obstacle to be removed. I pretended to try signing the first few pages, but my trembling hand made my handwriting crooked. Anna frowned and snatched the pen from my hand. You can't even sign properly. Maybe it's time I get someone else to witness this. That saying gave me goosebumps. It even accounted for fabricating false witnesses, making everything legal. I understand if I give in today, tomorrow I'll have nothing left. not even my life. I tried to stay calm, folded the file, and put it down on the table. No, Anna. Dad won't sign. The air is freezing. His face changed color, from cold to angry. You're so stubborn. You'd rather rot in this old house than give me a chance. I didn't answer. I just looked at it, my eyes filled with more sorrow than anger, because in that moment I realized this conflict was no longer father-son, but had become a battle for survival. Anna stormed out, slamming the door so hard that the picture on the wall fell down and the glass shattered. That sound of breaking glass was like the beginning of a chain of tragedies that neither of us could turn back from anymore. That night, I sat alone in the darkness, my hand clutching the notebook tightly. I know it's time for me to strike back. Otherwise, I would not only lose all my assets, but also my life at the hands of the very daughter I once loved the most. On Anna's 32nd birthday, I received a reluctant invitation. Dad, come to the party. It'll look bad if you don't show up. I understand for him the party isn't about gathering together, but a display of boasting to friends and partners. But I still went, carrying a decision in my heart. Today, I will no longer be silent. The guests were numerous, the lights were dazzling, and the music was booming. Anna, wearing a vibrant red dress and matching lipstick, stood radiantly in the middle of the crowd. It walked back to me, gave me a half-hearted hug, and then whispered, "Remember to behave, Dad. Don't embarrass me." I nodded, but deep down, every word felt like a needle prick. I never thought in my life that the day would come when my daughter would be afraid of losing face because of her own father. The party began, laughter echoing throughout the room. The red wine is poured full into the glass. I sat in a corner observing. On stage, Anna boasted about upcoming major projects, then skillfully mentioned that the family's assets would be transferred to the younger generation for more effective management. Many people applauded loudly. I clutched my glass of wine tightly. I know, this is the moment it wants to publicly display itself as the new master of everything, but I can't let the truth be distorted any further. I stood up. The sound of chairs scraping echoed, causing everyone to turn around. I stepped into the middle of the room, my voice trembling but clear and loud. "Excuse me, everyone. I have a few words I'd like to say." The air stagnated. Anna frowned, her smile freezing. I took the stack of papers out of my pocket. "This is a copy of the 00,000 bank loan agreement. It's in my name, but the signature isn't mine." Whispers spread throughout the hall. I continued. "And here's the video from the camera showing the main character, Anna, my daughter, switching the medication in the house." I placed the USB drive on the table, right in front of Anna. His face turned pale in an instant, but he quickly regained his composure. "Dad, stop. You don't know what you're talking about. He's old, everyone. Sometimes he forgets things." A few people forced a laugh, but the atmosphere had changed. Suspicious glances turned toward Anna. I took a deep breath and said firmly, "I may be old, but I'm not senile. I know what my daughter is doing. And today, I will no longer be silent." The room fell silent. Anna looked at me, her eyes full of resentment, but in that moment, I felt like I had regained some of my strength. I am no longer a victim waiting to be discarded, but a father ready to stand up among many people to expose the truth. After I publicly presented the evidence, the atmosphere in the hall became subdued. The boisterous laughter disappeared, replaced by suspicious glances. Anna still tried to keep smiling, but the corners of her mouth were stiff, and her eyes flashed with a mixture of anger and worry. One of my cousins, Mr. Henry, stood up and tapped his glass. "Robert, are you saying that little Anna forged the signature?" I nodded, my voice firm. "That's right. This is the evidence I gave to my lawyer. I'm not just saying this off the top of my head." The entire hall erupted in whispers. A few of Anna's business partners looked at each other, clearly confused. A young, well-dressed man stood up. "Anna, did you borrow money from the bank in your father's name?" Anna forced a smile, then quickly regained her confidence. "This is ridiculous. My father is sick. He's confused. Don't let him ruin this night." I looked straight into my daughter's eyes. "You can deceive outsiders, but you can't deceive your father. You've lived more than half your life. You know what the truth is." The air was as tense as a stretched string. Mrs. Margaret, my neighbor, suddenly stepped forward, her voice trembling but clear. "I saw Anna with my own eyes put something in Robert's tea. I didn't want to believe it, but now that I've heard him say it, I can't stay silent anymore. The whole room erupted in applause. Anna turned around sharply, her voice harsh. You old woman, don't spread lies. That scream caused many people to step back, shocked by Anna's loss of composure. I took the opportunity and pointed at it. See? When exposed, it could no longer remain calm. This is Anna's true self. A moment of silence stretched on. Then, from under the table, another voice spoke. It was Anna's current boyfriend, James. Anna, is what they're saying true? Anna's face momentarily changed color. He clutched the glass of wine tightly, but didn't answer right away. In those few short seconds, all the trust in James's eyes vanished. He dropped his glass, left the table, and walked away. The room was in chaos. Many people stood up and whispered to each other. I stood in the crowd, my heart pounding, but I felt relieved. Finally, the truth had been revealed before everyone's eyes. Anna turned to me, her eyes blazing. You'll regret this, Dad. I swear. I shook my head and calmly replied, No, Anna. It's you who should be regretting what you've done. The entire hall fell silent. The birthday party, which was supposed to be Anna's glorious day, turned into the day she was humiliated in front of everyone. The birthday party quickly turned into a confrontation. No one cares about pastries or wine anymore. All eyes turned toward my father and me. On one side, a gaunt, trembling but resolute father, and on the other, a daughter who was once admired, now revealing greed and impatience. An elderly aunt in the family, Aunt Linda, slowly spoke up. Anna, I've seen you raise your adopted son alone. Robert sacrificed his whole life for his child. And yet, now you... She choked up and shook her head. Sighs echoed throughout the room. Anna bit her lip, her eyes bloodshot, and turned to retort. Enough! This is my life, my business. None of you understand what it takes to survive out there. I replied, my voice firm. You're wrong, Anna. Living doesn't mean trampling on others, especially not your own biological father. A sudden round of applause erupted from the back of the room. That's David, an old friend of mine, and also the construction partner I used to work with. He stepped forward and patted me on the shoulder. Robert is right. I know he's been honest his whole life and has never lied. If he dares to stand up and speak, it means the truth is already too clear. Anna took a step back, her face deathly pale. I can clearly see the cracks in the proud wall it has built for so long. A female guest, a friend of Anna's, whispered softly. I lent her money, but she never paid me back. Now that I've heard this, I understand. The whisper spread quickly like a spark on dry grass. Within minutes, the entire room was buzzing with conversation. The admiring glances Anna received have now turned into looks of suspicion and contempt. Anna desperately grabbed the microphone, her voice wavering. Don't believe him. He's old, he's sick. He just wants to keep everything for himself. But that weak justification no longer carries any weight. On the contrary, it further distorts Anna's image in the eyes of the listener. I walked closer, took back the microphone, my voice calm but firm. People can believe it or not, as they wish, but I swear on my wife's spirit, everything I say today is the truth, and I will go to any lengths to protect my honor. The applause erupted again, stronger and more synchronized. Anna trembled, her eyes darting back and forth, staring at me as if she wanted to swallow me whole. But in those eyes I saw more fear than anger. That night, the party ended in chaos. Many guests left early, and some frankly said they would reconsider projects with Anna. I left the hall with heavy steps, but suddenly felt a sense of relief. At least I had regained my voice in front of the whole world. Anna stood still in the middle of the empty room, her hands clenched, her face distraught. The cold promise he made before I left still echoes. This isn't over, Dad. I know the battle has only just begun. After the scandalous birthday party, I knew I couldn't rely solely on public opinion. Anna is too wise to care about gossip. It will try to turn the tables. Therefore, I decided, I must enter a different game, legal and financial. I sought out lawyer David Carter, an old friend who used to work with me on a construction project. He listened to me recount everything, from the fake bank loan papers to the video of the medicine exchange. David was silent for a long moment, then nodded. Robert, you need to freeze the assets immediately. Otherwise, in just a few weeks, she could transfer or mortgage everything. Hearing that, I got chills. It's true that Anna had no intention of waiting. I signed a power of attorney for David, and just a few days later, the local court issued a temporary order. All of my houses, land, and bank accounts were frozen and could not be transacted until a final ruling was made. This news was like a bomb exploding right within the small investor community where Anna was struggling. Those who were once eager to cooperate are now withdrawing en masse. I heard vaguely that the two projects Anna had talked up are now on the verge of collapse due to lack of funding. Anna came to my house, her face flushed with anger. "Dad, what have you done? You're destroying everything." I replied calmly, trying to keep my voice even. "No, Anna, I'm just protecting what belongs to me. If you are pure, you have nothing to worry about." It sneered, its eyes flashing with malice. "You think you're clever, but this isn't over." I didn't answer. But deep down, I knew this legal battle was just beginning. I had no choice but to keep going, because if I let my guard down for even a moment, Anna would find a way to take everything. In the following days, David, my lawyer, began collecting evidence. He contacted the bank and requested a comparison of my signature and work schedule. It soon became clear. On the day the 0,000 loan was signed, I was in the hospital for a health checkup, with records and cameras to prove it. That is, the person who appeared at the bank that day definitely couldn't have been me. When the bank's video copies were provided, we saw a familiar figure. Anna standing next to a middle-aged man posing as Robert Miller. He wears glasses, dresses like me, but his gait is completely different. That sight was like a knife plunged deep into my heart. My daughter not only deceived me, but also staged an entire play to seize my assets. David looked at me, his voice dropping. "Robert, with this evidence, we can sue her for forgery and financial fraud." I was silent for a very long time. Despite the pain, I still nodded. I understand, if I keep covering up, Anna won't stop. The lawsuit has been filed, and within just a week, the police had sent Anna a summons to work. That news spread like wildfire. Neighbors are gossiping, and the community is buzzing with investment excitement. Many who once praised Anna as a promising young businesswoman now shake their heads and even avoid her. Anna rushed to find me, this time no longer pretending to be gentle. He slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "How dare you take this to the police? You're my father." I looked directly into its eyes, my voice heavy. "Father gave me everything, Anna, but I can't allow you to ruin me and this family's honor as well." He trembled with anger but couldn't argue back. I saw it clearly in his eyes. Fear flashed for the first time. That day I knew I was on the right track. The battle is no longer just in the shadows between father and son, but has come out into the light of the law. And there, the truth will be the most powerful weapon against the conspiracies of lies. On the day of the initial court hearing for the fraudulent loan case, Anna appeared as polished as ever, a luxurious black dress, a cold smile, and a challenging gaze. But this time, instead of praise, there were only a series of reporters' lenses and curious, skeptical gazes. I sat in the plaintiff's row, my hand gripping the files tightly. Lawyer David stood beside him, calm. Before the judge, he clearly presented the date and time he was at the hospital, a copy of his medical records, and camera footage from the bank showing the fake Robert with Anna. The judge frowned as he watched the tape. The entire courtroom was silent. Only the sound of my heart pounding in my chest could be heard. When Anna's image appeared, pointing at the files with a cold, sharp gaze, I saw many spectators shaking their heads in disgust. Anna still tried to argue. "That's not me. It could be anyone." David immediately retorted, "Your Honor, this is an audio recording. Please play the segment where Miss Anna introduces herself by name when signing documents." The sound echoed. Anna's voice was clear, undeniable. "I'm Anna Miller, his daughter. He can't speak much today, so I'll help." The entire courtroom was in an uproar. Anna's face turned pale, and her forced smile crumbled. The judge banged the gavel, his voice booming. "There is evidence suggesting the loan agreement shows serious signs of forgery." The court decided to continue the investigation and maintain the order freezing all of Mr. Robert Miller's assets to prevent illegal transfer. I breathed a sigh of relief. A weight in my heart felt as if it had just been lifted. I turned to look at Anna. It sat silently, staring at the floor, its hands clenched so tightly they were trembling. I know this blow hit him hard, but that night I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, looking out at the dark courtyard. The wind whistled through the crack in the door, carrying a sense of foreboding. I had just won a round, but Anna would definitely not stop. It was used to winning, to having everything. Being publicly exposed in court was a major shock, and also the reason for its more violent counterattack. I added to my notebook, day X, month Y. The court upheld the lockdown order. Anna is at a disadvantage, but the battle has only just begun. In my heart, pain and determination are intertwined. I've sacrificed so much to raise this daughter, but now I'm forced to see her as an opponent, a dangerous opponent who will stop at nothing, because I know legal action is just the first step. The next weapon Anna will use is public opinion, and I have to be ready. News about the Miller father-son lawsuit began to spread throughout the city like wildfire. Just a few days after the first hearing, the press unanimously reported, 62-year-old father accuses daughter of forging signature, plotting to seize assets. That title made me feel both heartbroken and relieved. At least the truth has been brought to light to some extent, but I quickly realized that public opinion is never simple. Immediately after, some tabloid news sites published it in a different direction. Greedy old father doesn't want to hand over assets to his successful daughter. The article went viral, with a flurry of comments. He's just selfish. If your children are successful, parents need to know when to let go. I read it with a heavy heart, not just because I was falsely accused, but also because my own daughter had hired people to fabricate those distorted pieces of information. Anna can't sit still. In just 2 days, she hired a PR company specializing in crisis management. They released a series of short clips on social media, images of Anna with tears in her eyes, her voice trembling. I just want to take care of my father, but he doesn't trust me. I never wanted to hurt him. That video is skillfully edited and plays mournful background music, hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of sympathetic comments. They call her the unfortunate daughter rejected by her own father. I looked at those images sitting motionless in the empty house. The light from my phone screen reflected my face, which looked old and tired. I wanted to scream, to tell the whole world it was a lie, but I understood. Arguing with emotions would only make me look weaker. I called David, my lawyer. He mused, "Robert, we can't let public opinion be led like this. He needs to show himself, but it has to be evidence, not just empty words." The next day, I agreed to be interviewed by a local newspaper. I recounted every detail, from discovering the forged signature to the video of Anna exchanging the medication. I didn't cry, I didn't complain, I just calmly presented the situation. But when I remembered Anna's 8-year-old promise, "Daddy, one day I'll build a house just for you," my eyes welled up. The interview was published and the initial feedback was positive. Many people commented, "He seems sincere. If there really is a video, the daughter is too cruel." But I know the public relations battle won't stop there. Anna will counterattack even more fiercely, because for her, honor is money, and money is everything. A fear arose within me. If the truth isn't clearly proven, the crowd out there will easily choose to side with the fake crybaby who hires the right media. I told myself, I need to prepare carefully, because this battle is not just in court, but also in the public eye. Just as I predicted, Anna counterattacked even faster than a rumor spreads. Just 3 days after my interview, a series of investigative articles were released online. The headlines are all gut punches for the reader. Robert Miller, a past of debauchery, a present of deception. The articles spliced together a few old photos from when I was young, standing with friends at noisy parties, and then labeled it a reckless lifestyle. I held the printed newspaper in my hand, my heart clenching. I clearly remember that day was a farewell party for colleagues at the construction site, a simple and fun gathering, yet under the PR's manipulation, it became proof of my debauchery. Malicious comments flooded in again. No wonder he's making up lies to smear his daughter. With a father like this, it's only right that his children abandon him. I almost collapsed. But David held my shoulder tightly, his voice firm. "Robert, don't let your emotions get the better of you. This is just a distraction tactic. We have real evidence, that's the weapon." He helped me get in touch with an investigative reporter named Mark, who is known for being incorruptible. When I showed him the original video, the part where Anna switched the medicine in the kitchen, Mark was stunned. He said, "If this segment is broadcast publicly, public opinion will immediately reverse. But you must be prepared, because they will do everything to deny it." Mark's article was published in a reputable newspaper. He analyzed it thoroughly. the difference between Anna's edited PR clip and the original video, quoting witness Margaret, the neighbor who saw it firsthand. This time, the online community was clearly divided into two distinct camps. One faction still believes Anna, calling me a senile old man, but the other side began to wake up. If there really is a video, why doesn't Anna dare to face it directly? Perhaps Mr. Robert is the real victim. The balance of public opinion began to shift. I received many encouraging calls. A former colleague said through tears, "Robert, I believe you." He used to share his lunch with me at the construction site. Someone like that can't be a liar. Those words brought tears to my eyes. I understand, I'm not alone, but Anna wasn't ready to give up. She appeared on a major television channel, her eyes sparkling with tears. "My father is sick. He confuses reality. I was only trying to help, but he turned against me." The smooth words, plus a few tears, made the audience hesitate again. I know, if I just stick to father's words, son's words, I'll lose. I need stronger, clearer evidence in public. That night, I sat in my office, flipping through the daily notebook. My heart was pounding. In my hands, the truth isn't just videos or bank statements. It's also dozens of detailed pages of notes. Which days I was tired, when the medication was changed, who was in the house. If I make everything public, Anna will have no way out. I took a deep breath and decided, tomorrow I will reveal everything publicly. Not just in court, but right in the public eye. That morning I wore my old suit and clutched a thick stack of files tightly in my hand. Lawyer David arranged a small press conference for me right at City Hall. Reporters jostled, and camera flashes went off continuously. My heart was pounding, but I told myself, this is the time to say everything. If I remain silent, the truth will die with me. I stood before the wooden podium, my voice trembling slightly but gradually becoming stronger. I am Robert Miller, Anna Miller's father. In my hands are the complete health records, bank transaction evidence, and original videos. Today I'm making everything public so everyone can see the truth. I held up the yellowed notebook. Each page clearly recorded the dates and times I took my medication, any unusual symptoms, and Anna bringing tea or changing medicine bottles. Many reporters strained their eyes to take close-up shots. Then David played the original video right on the big screen. The image of Anna secretly switching the medicine, her eyes cold and sharp, is clear every second. The entire audience was silent, with only the clicking of cameras breaking the stillness. Mrs. Margaret was invited up, her hands trembling but her voice clear. I saw it with my own eyes. I couldn't stand by and do nothing while Mr. Robert's life was in danger. The whole room erupted in a buzz of excitement. A young reporter jumped up. "Mr. Robert, why are you only making this public now?" I looked straight into the lens, my eyes blurring. "Because I am the father. I used to hope my daughter would turn around. But when it was determined to eliminate me, I had no other choice." Those words rang out, broadcast live. Millions of people watched on the small screen, and immediately public opinion turned violently against him. Sympathetic comments poured in. "He's not lying. This father is suffering too much. Anna went too far." That afternoon, social media exploded. The press conference clip reached millions of views within hours. The hashtags #JusticeForRobert and #AnnaExposed trended at the top. A major newspaper ran the headline, "Shocking Video, Daughter Swaps Medication to Harm Father and Seize Assets." Anna also appeared on television that evening, but this time her tears and justifications were no longer effective. The host asked directly and sharply, "If you're innocent, why can't you explain the original video?" Anna was flustered, her voice wavering, and she just replied curtly, "That's not what it looks like." But the audience turned away. Donors withdrew contracts, and partners canceled agreements. In the eyes of the public, victim Anna has now become a betrayer of her own father. I sat in front of the screen, my hands trembling but my heart feeling light. I know I've gained the upper hand in this media battle, but I also understand that this is not the end. Because the final confrontation won't happen in the press, but in the courtroom. There, justice is the deciding voice. On the day the official trial began, the sky was overcast, with gray clouds covering it like a storm warning. I put on my old vest and walked into the courtroom with heavy legs. On both sides of the path leading to the gate, reporters jostled and cameras flashed continuously. The calls rang out. "Robert, do you believe your daughter will be convicted? Does Anna really want to harm her father?" I didn't answer, just clutched the notebook tightly in my palm, as if clinging to my last bit of courage. On the other side, Anna appeared. She was wearing a light gray office dress, her face was carefully made up, and her hair was neatly bunned. She held her head high, walked quickly, and tried to appear strong. But I noticed dark circles under his eyes, a sign of sleepless nights. Anyway, she was still confident, because in her mind, money can buy anything, including the truth. In the courtroom, the atmosphere was stiflingly tense. The judge sat majestically, banging the gavel. The trial for the forgery and conspiracy to misappropriate assets case between plaintiff Robert Miller and defendant Anna Miller officially begins. Lawyer David stood up first and presented the evidence. A 0,000 loan agreement with a forged signature, medical records proving I was in the hospital when the contract was signed, and a video from the bank camera showing the fake Robert with Anna. Next, he showed a video of the medicine being changed right in the kitchen. The whole room was buzzing, and many people covered their mouths in shock. Anna and her lawyer immediately refuted. The video may be edited. There is no evidence that the substance in the vial is harmful. David calmly replied, "We sent the drug samples to an independent laboratory. The results showed that it was a high-dose sedative, not suitable for Mr. Roberts' health condition. If used long-term, it can cause heart failure." The entire courtroom was shaken. I saw Anna's back stiffen, but she still forced a smile and turned to the jury. "My father is confused. He's old. Maybe he misunderstood my intention." I gripped the armrest tightly. In my heart, pain and resentment surged. She didn't apologize at all, and even tried to make everything out to be a senior moment. The judge asked the first witness to testify. Mrs. Margaret stepped forward, small in stature but with a determined look in her eyes. She recounted clearly how she saw Anna put something in my tea. Her voice trembled but was sincere, causing the entire room to fall silent. "It's the turn of the second witness, the bank employee." He affirmed, "The man who signed the contract that day was completely different from my passport photo in the file, and it was Anna herself who claimed to be accompanying her father to assist." When the witness finished, I glanced at Anna. For the first time, I saw a slight change in my daughter's expression, her forced smile cracking. But I know she won't give up easily. This battle is far from over, and any surprises are still possible. The atmosphere in the courtroom is becoming increasingly heavy. Each statement was like a hammer blow striking the facade Anna had been struggling to maintain. But then her lawyer unexpectedly launched a counterattack. He stood up, his voice full of confidence. "Your Honor, we have evidence showing that Mr. Robert Miller has previously had memory problems. This is a medical record, which states that you experienced dizziness and disorientation during an examination 2 years ago. So how can we be sure that your records and testimony today are completely reliable?" Whispering voices rose. I felt my heart sink. "Yes, I used to get dizzy and had to be hospitalized for one night." "Will they use that small detail to deny everything?" Anna turned to me, a triumphant glint in her eyes. She smiled softly as if to say, "See, Dad? You will always be better than your father." David immediately stood up to refute. "Yes, Mr. Robert used to get dizzy due to low blood pressure, but the hospital confirmed it was a temporary issue that didn't affect his long-term memory at all. We also have evidence that after that time, Mr. Robert continued to work, manage assets, and keep full records. These notebooks are the clearest evidence." He held up my stack of notebooks. Every day, every hour, every small detail about medications, health, and unusual changes. The jury passed it around, and everyone nodded silently. I sat in the witness row, looking at the notebook, and it felt like all my pain and perseverance were finally being recognized. The judge banged the gavel, ordering the proceedings to continue. At this point, the prosecutor presented a surprise witness, James, Anna's ex-boyfriend. He entered the courtroom, his face tense. Anna jumped, her eyes widening in surprise. James stated, "I heard Anna say that if Mr. Robert signs the will, everything will be much easier. She also said, he doesn't have much longer to live." At that time, I thought she was just angry. But now, I understand her deeper meaning. The entire courtroom was shocked. Anna jumped up and shouted, "You liar! You just want revenge because I left you." The judge banged the gavel loudly, demanding order. James's voice was trembling, but his eyes were firm. "I don't want revenge. I just want the truth to come out." That testimony was the last straw. I saw many jurors whispering to each other, their expressions gradually shifting from skepticism to anger. Anna plopped down on the chair, her face pale. She turned to the lawyer, whispering something, but I noticed her voice had lost its inherent confidence. As the trial adjourned for the final arguments, I sat silently in the waiting room. My heart was pounding, and sweat was pouring down my forehead. I'm neither happy nor gloating. I only felt a choked-up pain. This was my daughter, the little girl who used to hold my hand on the way to school, now exposed as a traitor to the whole world. But I understand. Justice must prevail, no matter how heartbroken this father is. That afternoon, the trial entered its final arguments phase. The courtroom was packed, and every eye was on my son and me. The air was so thick and stuffy that I could clearly hear the clatter of pens on paper from the court secretary. Anna's lawyer stood up first. He tried to salvage the situation, his voice even, but clearly showing his confusion. Your Honor, my client only wanted to help his father manage his assets. The evidence presented can all be misinterpreted. None of us witnessed Anna stopping the medication directly, and the testimony of the former witness is clearly emotional. Furthermore, there can be deep misunderstandings between father and son. The entire courtroom was in an uproar. Clearly, this excuse is too weak after a series of authentic evidence. It was David's turn, my lawyer, to come out. He adjusted his glasses, his voice booming clear and cold. Your Honor, this is not a family misunderstanding. This is a carefully calculated conspiracy. We have forged bank documents, the original video recording the drug swap, witness statements, and even the indirect admission of the defendant himself in numerous audio recordings. All of this shows that Anna Miller not only wanted to seize the assets, but was also willing to sacrifice her own health and even the life of her biological father. He paused for a moment, then said slowly, emphasizing each word, "This isn't just a property dispute. This is a crime." The final words rang out like a hammer blow, silencing the entire room. The judge retired to chambers. The entire audience was tense. I sat silently, my hands clasped together, cold sweat running down my face. Anna sat a few meters away, her eyes dark, her lips pressed so tightly they were bleeding. The moment the judge returned, my heart stopped. The verdict was read slowly, each word echoing. After considering all the evidence, testimony, and expert findings, the court ruled Anna Miller is guilty of document forgery, financial fraud, and endangering the health of others. The court ruled that all assets remain the legal property of Mr. Robert Miller. Defendant Anna Miller will be prosecuted and sentenced according to the law. The entire audience erupted in whispers. Some people burst into tears, while others clapped as if a weight had been lifted. I sat there motionless, tears naturally welling up. I'm not crying because I won the case, but because a father's heart just shattered for the last time. Anna jumped up and screamed, "No, this isn't fair! He set me up." Security personnel quickly approached and held her tightly. I watched my daughter's shadow being led away, my eyes red and swollen, my heart heavy as stone. I no longer saw a villain in front of me, but only a lost child who had lost both love and humanity. As the trial concluded, I stepped outside and the afternoon sun shone down. Reporters jostled and asked questions in rapid succession, but I only said one thing. I didn't win. Justice prevails. But my heart lost. The camera flashes were continuous, but in my heart, there was only a vast emptiness. I knew that from this point on, my life would take a different turn, a chapter where, even though justice was on my side, the family wounds would never heal. After the trial, public opinion erupted violently. The newspapers that once praised Anna are now competing to publish articles criticizing her. Young businesswoman reveals her true face, forging signatures, plotting against her biological father. Television replayed the scene of her being led out of the courtroom, her face pale, her eyes lifeless. In just one night, the image of the successful daughter that Anna had painstakingly built up crumbled to pieces. Business partners are simultaneously withdrawing their capital. Anna's small company, which existed only on borrowed promises and relationships, quickly went bankrupt. Her phone rang non-stop, but not with collaborative calls. They were from the bank, from creditors, from people who had once trusted her to invest their money. Everyone wants to get their share back. The new boyfriend also disappeared without a trace. Previously, he always showed admiration for Anna, but when she fell on hard times, he coldly walked away, leaving a harsh sentence. I can't be with someone who has the reputation of deceiving even their own father. Neighbors around the neighborhood also changed their attitude. In the past, they used to look at Anna with admiration, even setting her as an example for their children. Now it's different. Every time Anna stepped out of the house, whispers would rise, "There she goes, the unfilial daughter." The children in the neighborhood teased, "You're the one who wanted to poison your father." Anna went home, slammed the door, and collapsed on the floor, sobbing, but no one cared. Overwhelmed by debt, her accounts frozen, and her reputation ruined, Anna was left with only a small rented apartment and a few meager belongings. As night fell, the cold room echoed with her choked sobs. The crying no longer sounded like that of a grown woman, but rather the weak sobs of a lost child. But more terrifying than anything else was the silence from my family. I, the father you once wanted to get rid of, didn't visit, didn't call. The relatives, who were once a source of emotional support, have now turned their backs. No one wants to get involved with someone who betrayed their own father. Anna sat alone, looking at an old photo of her and her mother. In tearful eyes, for the first time, a complete emptiness appeared. Everything she tried to build, all the tricks she once believed were clever, ultimately turned to ashes. In the days following the verdict, Anna's life spiraled out of control. The newspapers continued to dig up more details from the past: times she borrowed money from friends and didn't pay it back, fictitious mouth-selling deals, and even the story of faking a scholarship to win over investors. Each disgusting piece of the puzzle was revealed, transforming her from a startup star into a fraud in the eyes of society. The climax came when a reporter discovered that Anna had used the nominal debt I had taken out to buy luxury cars and designer handbags. Those photos of her smiling as she stepped out of that car, once hailed as a powerful businesswoman, now serve as living proof of the extravagance built on the sweat and tears of others. A barrage of sarcastic comments flooded social media, spending her biological father's money like a queen, stealing from her own family. What could be more despicable? Even Anna's former best friends are gradually distancing themselves. Some people messaged, not to check in, but to demand the money they contributed to virtual projects. When they couldn't get it back, they cursed and swore at her terribly. Anna's phone rings constantly every day, but there's no friendly voice on the other end anymore. There was only the sound of threats, curses, and demands for debt repayment. One evening, while going to the grocery store to buy some instant noodles, Anna heard a whisper right behind her. "There, that's the one who poisoned his father. Look, it's no different from a crime." She turned around and saw two women holding a small child looking at her with contempt. The child bluntly asked their mother, "Mom, is it true that she wants to kill her father?" Anna was speechless, her heart aching. She ran away, her high heels clacking loudly on the dark sidewalk. Back in her room, she plopped down on the floor, clutching her head. For the first time in her life, Anna truly understood what it meant to have no place to stand. But the most painful thing came from my family. I haven't contacted them at all. I know, each of my calls only makes you struggle more and sink deeper. Relatives were the same. Everyone shook their heads, refusing to mention Anna's name during family meals. And for them, she was as if erased from the family tree. Late at night tea, Anna sat lost in thought by the window of her dark apartment, gazing at the distant city lights. In her head, the judge's words echoed. "The crime has been proven. Defendant Anna Miller will be prosecuted." That statement is not only a legal sentence, but also a social sentence and a sentence of conscience. She remembered the old days when she was a child, running around the construction site, showing everyone, "This is my father, he builds houses for everyone." When did that innocent smile disappear? Why is there only contempt and alienation left today? Every time Anna looks in the mirror, she sees herself aging by a decade, dark circles under her eyes, sallow skin, no longer a trace of the proud girl she once was. The price of ambition is not only honor, but also inner decay. That winter, Anna officially hit rock bottom. The legal judgment required her to compensate the bank and be placed under close supervision. With no company and no assets left, she was forced to take odd jobs to make a living. From a young entrepreneur who once stood on stage under bright lights, Anna now has to wash dishes in a small suburban diner in exchange for a meager salary. Whenever regular customers recognize him, whispers erupt. Is she Anna Miller, the one who wanted to poison her own father? That's right, take a closer look. It's still that face. It's really embarrassing. Anna buried her face in the sink, her hands trembling. She wished she could run away, disappear from that look of contempt. But where can she run now when her name is known throughout society? Old friends have completely disappeared. Even on social media, where she used to flaunt glamorous photos, there are now only thousands of scathing comments. She tried to delete her account, but people still took screenshots and saved them as proof of the downfall of a greedy person. One night, Anna returned to her small apartment, utterly exhausted. She opened the cabinet and took out an old family photo. Me, her wife, Anna's mother, and little Anna sitting on her father's shoulders, all smiling radiantly. The photo is yellowed and torn at the edges, but the happy smile is still there. Looking at that, she burst into tears. For the first time, Anna admitted to herself everything was lost, and no one could bring her back to what she used to be. The neighbors around us wouldn't leave us alone either. Once, Anna went out to buy some food and was recognized by a group of young people. They sneered, threw water bottles at her feet, and mocked, "Hey, here's the city's golden girl. Why don't you go home and take care of your father instead of wandering around like this?" Anna hung her head, picking up each piece of food that had fallen onto the street, her heart numb. She knew she no longer had the right to face anyone, and the cruelest thing, even though everyone around her looked down on her, what hurt Anna more than anything else was the silence from me. Not a single call, not a single letter, not a single inquiry. I don't hate, I just choose absolute silence, because that's the heaviest sentence. Living in the oblivion of her family and the contempt of society, Anna gradually faded away. On those cold winter days, she huddled in her old apartment, clutching the family photo tightly. She whispered to herself, her voice choked with emotion, "Daddy, I was wrong." But that whisper only echoed within the silent four walls. No one can hear, no one replied. The price of betrayal, ultimately, isn't just prison or debt. It's a permanent loss. Loss of trust, loss of intimacy, loss of oneself. In the months following the trial, Anna lived like a shadow. She was no longer Anna Miller, the successful young businesswoman, but just Anna, the betrayer of her own father. Her name became a stain, appearing every place in the press and on social media as a warning against greed. Initially, Anna tried to struggle. She tried to contact some old friends, begging them to lend her a little money to start her business again. But the answer was just head shakes, and even messages cutting off contact. "Don't call me anymore. I don't want to be involved with the person who once wanted to kill my father." At NIT, Anna often has nightmares. In my dream, she was standing in the middle of the courtroom while I, the old father, collapsed, my trembling hand reaching out toward my daughter. She wanted to run back, to hug me, but her legs felt as heavy as lead, and I was gone. Only the echoing voice remained. "You betrayed your father, Anna." Each time I woke up, cold sweat poured all over my body. Anna turned on the light and looked at the empty, cold room. On the table, the old family photo still lay there. She reached out and touched my face in the photo, her eyes blurring. "Daddy, I'm sorry," she whispered, but the only response was an eerie silence. Once Anna mustered all her courage and dialed my phone number. The phone rang for a very long time, but no one answered. She called again and again until the operator's voice rang out. "The subscriber you have called is currently unavailable." Anna's heart was broken. She buried her face in the pillow and sobbed like a child. "Try writing a letter." In trembling handwriting, Anna wrote that she was remorseful, that she lived in torment every day. But the letters sent never received a reply. Maybe I accepted, maybe I didn't, but no matter what, that silence was still the harshest sentence. Anna began to live in a vicious cycle of self-reproach. I washed dishes and clean at work, and I endure being scolded by others. But as night fell, she was left only with herself, with the questions that gnawed at her incessantly. Why did I do that? Why would I betray the very person who raised me? The answer never came. There's only emptiness, a throbbing ache, and the tears that soaked the pillow night after night. The following spring, the city began to bloom with cherry blossoms. But in Anna's heart, everything was just gray. Every time she saw families walking together, she felt choked up. The child held his father's hand, looked up with a radiant smile, and Anna's heart ached as if squeezed by someone. That image brought back distant memories of when she was that little girl, who used to believe her father was her only hero. One afternoon, Anna wandered in front of my old house. The wooden door is still there, and the porch still has the flower pots I used to water every morning. She stood from afar, not daring to knock on the door. So many words welled up inside me, wanting to be spoken. Daddy, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Just give me one more chance. But my throat was choked. I closed the door to my heart a long time ago. Returning to her rented apartment, Anna sat at the table for hours, writing long letters and then crumpling them up. In the letter, she confessed everything: her greed, her ignorance, her blindness to fame. There are passages where the words blur due to tears. Dad, I regret it every day. I wish I could go back to childhood, when I sat on your shoulders and believed the world only needed you. But now it's too late. As night falls, the nightmares still linger. This time, Anna dreamed of a courtroom scene. I stood before her, my eyes cold but sad. She burst into tears, knelt down, and begged for forgiveness. But I turned away, the figure fading, leaving her alone in the dark room. She screamed, but no one heard. When she woke up, Anna's heart was racing and tears were streaming down her face. She picked up the phone and called me again. It's still the soulless voice of the call center. She dropped her phone, sat down on the floor, and sobbed silently. As days passed, regret became more deeply ingrained in my mind. Anna realized legal sentences eventually expire, and social sentences can eventually fade. But the verdict of conscience will follow her for the rest of her life. Every time Anna looks in the mirror, she no longer recognizes herself. The once proud and sharp girl is now just a gaunt figure with tired eyes and a face etched with premature wrinkles. She whispered to her reflection, "This is the price to pay, and Father will never forgive." Anna understands that belated regret cannot be salvaged. She had lost everything: honor, friends, love, and the most precious thing, a father's love. After all the storms, I, Robert, chose a quiet life for myself. The old house is still there, the brick wall covered in moss, the porch with the scent of old wood. But in my heart, a new chapter had begun. I no longer torment myself like I did in the early days, nor do I expect Anna to knock on the door and call Daddy like she used to. I'm learning to accept that some wounds will never heal, but we can still move on. I spend more time in the community. Every morning, I stop by the church, chat with the priest, and participate in the charity group that builds houses for the poor. I find myself standing in the middle of a construction site again, holding a hammer and nails, sweat dripping onto the concrete floor. Small houses sprang up, the faces of the poor shone with joy. All of this reminded me of why I chose construction as a profession: to bring shelter. During those trips, I met many children. There was a child running around, tugging at my shirt, asking questions, just like Anna used to. I bent down, smiled, and patted their heads. My heart ached, but it also felt strangely warm. I realized love doesn't disappear. It just needs a new place to take root. In the evening, I sat alone on the porch, watching the fiery red sunset. I miss Anna, but I'm no longer resentful. Instead, I pray for my child, hoping that one day they can find themselves again, even though I know the chances are slim. And in that moment, I understood a truth. Family isn't truly about blood, but about respect and love. When a person loses that, they have separated themselves from home. As time passed, I gradually found inner peace. People often think justice lies only in court rulings, but I've come to realize that true justice also lies in how we live after suffering. I don't want the rest of my life to be just a series of days remembering betrayal, but rather to make it a reminder for others. I started accepting invitations to share at community gatherings and schools. I'm telling my own story, without embellishment or evasion. When it comes to the scene where Anna hands over the will and the cold words, "Sign this, Dad. You won't live long anyway." Many people fell silent. Some shed tears. I looked directly at the students and slowly said, "Never let money blind you. Because once you lose family, all that's left is an emptiness that can never be filled." After the conversation, a student ran up to me, took my hand, and with tears in their eyes said, "I'm going to hug my mother as soon as I get home." That small sentence moved me to tears. I know my pain has at least become a lesson for others. I also learned to forgive, not for Anna, but for myself. I forgive the years I blindly trusted, the tears I shed, and the long sleepless nights. Forgive to be free, because I understand that if I keep holding on to hatred, I'll be no different from the person who once wanted to destroy me. One afternoon, I received an anonymous letter in the mailbox in front of my house. The trembling handwriting was clearly Anna's. I knew you wouldn't read this, Father, but I still want to say that every day I live is a day I regret. I hope you live a long and happy life, and please don't think about me anymore. I finished reading, my hand trembling slightly. I'm not crying, I'm just folding the letter and putting it in the drawer. I know Anna is still there, struggling with regret. But the only choice I could make was to let her find her own way back, or be lost in darkness forever. That summer, I participated in a small bridge construction project in the suburbs. Dozens of young volunteers and I carried bricks and mixed mortar. Amidst the scorching sun, I felt like I was being reborn. The hearty laughter, the calloused hands of youth, all of it warmed my heart. I am no longer a victim of betrayal, but a part of a community creating something good. On the final night of the project, everyone sat huddled around the campfire. A student asked me, "Uncle Robert, if you could choose again, would you wish you had never had that daughter?" I was speechless. The firelight cast my shadow long onto the ground. I smiled sadly and replied, "No." Because no matter how painful it was, that experience taught me the greatest lesson. Family is not built on blood ties, but on love and respect. The whole group fell silent. A young girl nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "I understand, Uncle. Family is truly a place of love, not a place that forces us to sacrifice unconditionally." Those words were like a gentle breeze blowing through my heart. I know my story doesn't end with revenge or bitterness, but with a humanistic message to help future generations walk more wisely. Returning home, I rehung the old family photo on the wall. I'm not erasing memories, nor am I still haunted by them. I left it there as a reminder. Love, if not nurtured with appreciation, will only be a shadow. That night, I sat on the porch, looking at the starry sky. In my heart, I whispered, "Anna, I hope you find your own path." And Dad, he finally found peace. And I conclude my life story with a simple belief. Even if storms tear apart homes, new houses can still be rebuilt with loving hands and hearts. Subscribe and follow, because the next story I tell you will be even more shocking and haunting than this.